This is our third video of this series. In the first one, we installed Windows. In the second one, we uninstalled, debloated, and did a lot of the updates for Windows Update to get us up to version 20H2 of Windows 10. Be careful when you're installing software because there's a lot of fake malware websites. Well, they're real websites, but they put fake copies or versions of software that people actually want that's popular. And the idea is they're going to try to sneak in some Trojans, some viruses, some backdoors, some spyware, some whatever. We're going to be trying to steer away from proprietary software, which may be recording everything that you're doing and sending it to Microsoft AI. So I'm going to include links to each of these websites below. I understand Windows 10 comes with a web browser, but Windows 10 web browsers over the last 2.5 decades haven't exactly been the best. Actually, they've been pretty much the bottom of everything. The best usage for the pre-installed Windows browser is to go get a browser. Firefox is a common one, Google Chrome, Opera, Safari. For this video, I'm just going to install Brave. It's a private web browser with ad blocker built in. Browser reimagined, 3 times faster than Chrome. Well, that sounds good. So we're going to download it. You see it doing its little flash thing down there. It says open file. Remember, we are in a virtual machine, so things do work a little slower than what we're used to. There we go. So we're just going to close everything because we don't need to see it. Let me guess. On your marks. I thought it would say get set go. But if it did say that, that was really fast, and I never got to see anything but on your marks. Oh, nice fast download. It's on our network here, which is, I think, 400 megs down. So the first thing it's going to do once we get installed, it's going to pop itself up. There's a welcome tour. Import your bookmark setting, up to you. I don't have it on this computer. It's a fresh install. You won't have them either if it's a fresh install. It's just going through telling you different parts of what they're doing. I kind of would like to see that default search engine. Select default, DuckDuckGo. We're going to set that default. DuckDuckGo is very accurate, but it does not track what you've been searching or right, and none of that. It doesn't do any of that. We've got that installed, but see, that's not going to be enough. I just close it. I'm reopening it because now it's going to come up set as default. Now, yes, that's going to pop up this Windows component. You just go down to web browser. We want to use Brave. It's going to tell you, oh, please don't go. Use our stuff. No, we're not interested. We're going to switch anyway. How you like the link? Switch anyway, that little thing. In the last video, and I'll link it below and also this one, I included the statement or the link to the statement that Microsoft made on how they are in fact tracking keyboard presses, camera footage, and voice recordings. So we're just trying to make that less convenient for them to do so. So now that we have a browser installed, the first thing we're going to go get everything. All of these listed below. It's from voidtools.com. Most computers today are going to do a 64-bit version. So that's what we're going to go with. This is a 64-bit system. 32-bit computers are pretty much phasing out. That's almost a past tense thing. We're right at the line there where we can say they've been phased out. We're real close to that. So there again, we're going to save it. Now, what everything does, it searches for files on your computer. And you might say, well, Windows already indexes it. Windows already has a way of finding files. Well, it's horrible. Oops, not worried about checking for startups. Install folder context menus. In other words, right click and you can have that in there. All this is good. So we're going to say install. I'm going to give you an example of why this is much more preferable. Okay, run everything. Now we installed it as a service. In other words, it's going to be running automatically when Windows starts up, and it's going to be running at an administrative level so that it has access to everything on the computer. And it's really, really, really light on your computer. Is it keeps in its own index of every file on your computer. While this is updating its index, it takes like 2 or 3 minutes. On a fast computer, it could take 30 seconds. Your mileage may vary, so we're going to minimize this, and we're going to go ahead for our next install, which is going to be 7-zip. I like 7-zip because there's certain types of files that you will come across on the internet. Not as much common now as it was a few years ago, but still it's common enough, like RAR files, RAR, they got that extension, that Windows doesn't understand what they are. Also gzip files, if you're working with other operating system formats and files, it's just nice to have something that works across the board. And this is also installable, I believe, on every platform. Let's see, just curious. Let's see, downloads. Windows, Debian, Fedora Core, these are all Linux and BSDs, which are different things. Amiga, Solaris, AIX. Wow, I haven't messed with AIX in 20 years. Anyway, a lot of different operating systems are supported by this. So there again, we're going to go for the 64-bit version. And all this does is compress and decompress files. It can use zip format, which is pretty much PKwares. If anybody goes back that far to remember that company name. Their zip format. This also has a 7Z format. You can also do other formats. So we're just going to have it install. It's very fast because it's very tiny. And so you're saying, wait, I didn't really see anything happen. Everything's updated. Okay, first, just show you. Let's say, I guess I have to do it there. Remember, it's a clean install. Right click and see it says search everything and 7-zip. And you can add to archive, you can compress an email. You can also, if you just say add to archive, you can set how compressed, how tiny you want the file. You can also encrypt it, put a password on a file. So those are nice features to have. So let's do a demonstration on why we installed everything. Okay, and everything, if I were to type something very generic, like the word the, THE, whoops, it automatically got us down to 962 objects on the computer. It's already searched that. If I switch it to them, well, I boiled it down to 434. But you see how it's instant. Now watch what happens if you do the exact same thing under Windows using Microsoft Search. I'll go to this PC. Right up here, you can just do search. And if I type the, we'd be waiting here for several minutes, probably, to find 960 some files. We're up to 17. Remember, the other was instant. We're at 23. And the more files you get, the more complex your data structures and everything are with this. Windows will it gets slower and slower and slower to the point you're not even sure if it's still going or if it ever started or what it's doing. That's probably 20 some odd seconds, and we're at 38. That's the reason why I use everything, because you can actually go up here and you can select, you can change what you're doing. You can match so it's a case sensitive search. You can do just like I just want to find audio files or compressed files or videos or pictures. You can just boil this thing down, filter it all down to where you're only looking for the thing that you're looking for. Windows, other than extensions, you'd be kind of hard pressed to do any of that. So it's a nice tool to have. These are just nice things to have to use your computer. In the last video, we talked about why I do not recommend, and if you look, I have uninstalled Mail. Ooh, another software, Microsoft To-Do List. Anyway, Mail's gone. because Microsoft's going to keep track of all of your whatever you're doing in there. There again, it's not an issue of having something to hide. Some of us work in fields or with other people's data or other people's information that we don't want to have it compromised, and basically violate our privacy policy for no other reason. We're using Windows, and when Microsoft said, hey, by the way, we're going to be capturing your key presses, your voice, and video recordings. So we can promise our clients, our friends, or whatever, that our privacy is that we're not going to share your information with anybody. But the fact is, if you're using Windows, there's a good chance, very good chance, that you actually are sharing, intentional or not, but you may very well be sharing. Perfect example of that was the people we also uninstalled out of here. Well, it's right there. Well, I turned it off. I mean, you can't uninstall it. Where Microsoft's using you to data mine information on your contacts, the people and friends and associates that you have. You're just typing it and giving it to them. That's not what you're wanting to do. You're just wanting to have a simple way of keeping contacts. It'd be nice if that we could actually do that. So we're going in there again. We're going to open up Brave, and I'm just leaving these on the desktop. I would suggest getting rid of them, but right now I'm just so you can have an idea of what we've done and where we've gone so far. So now we're going to go Mozilla Thunderbird. Now here's the fun part about Mozilla Thunderbird. It is on every operating system I've used. It's kind of nice that way. But I really wish that they would modernize it. Outlook, even Windows Mail, so many others, so even online email software solutions sometimes are just better. The interface is 100% dated. Does it work? Yes. Can you filter? Yes. Can you do all of the rules? And yes, you can do all that. It's just dated. Thunderbird did a lookup on what operating system we have and what language, I assume, or they'll do the language while we install. But Thunderbird's on all the Linux versions I've used. I believe it's under Mac. I mean, we could look, download. See, the advantage of this, I'm trying to find, systems and languages, cancel. We want to go here, systems and languages. Wow, when you have to have okay, there's languages. I'm wanting operating systems. Let's just pick a released version. Yeah, Windows, Mac, and Linux. That pretty well covers, and when they say Linux, they mean Linux, they mean Debian, they mean all these different streams or types of those operating systems. Linux is a kernel. Let's not get into that. I don't want to confuse everybody. But the thing is, you can take, because these pieces of software, you work on multiple operating systems. If you learn it on one, and say you were to switch over to Linux, you could take your data with you, and you don't have to learn anything new. It's going to keep doing the exact same thing which you're used to. That's a huge plus. So we've already got it downloaded, so here we go. There's another benefit of using Thunderbird. Many of the websites that are on the internet, if you own a website or if you're affiliated with a website, and I'm not talking Gmail or Hotmail or Live or any of these free database feeders, they usually have a configuration file that you can download, install it straight into to Thunderbird rather, and it will set you up most of your account all the way, usually all the way up to the password. You're still gonna have to enter the password. Makes configurations simple. But on the other side of it, they've also got auto scanner. You tell it my email address is whatever, Sean at Sean Wilkerson or root at Hacker Eyes or whatever it is. It'll go to the server, find out from the server directly what the configurations are, and have you set it up. I'm not going, I'll start it up so you can look at it because it's going to go right into its menu. It's Wizard, it's Install Wizard. But that's not the focus of this video either. We're not really, ooh, download beta. There it comes. And this is what I was saying. You just put your email address, well, your name, you put your email address, and you put your password, etc., etc. I'm going to do an entire another video where we're going to show you how to install this, but we're also going to show you how to own your own domain name and a web server, space on a web server someplace that's yours, that's cheap, to where you can store your own emails and you don't have to worry about Google getting them or Microsoft getting them or anybody else going through and reading everything that's going on in there. I mean, think about it. Sometimes you have credit card information. Sometimes you have financial information. Sometimes you have just personal information, emails from friends. You might have a phone number from a loved one or something. Just pieces of information you don't want shared. And you want to keep them, they're yours. Well, it'd be a horrible thing to go to Google one day and type in something related to your email address and be able to find a whole bunch of stuff that's out on Google because you actually had it in an email, even though you've never shared it with anybody. That is a possibility. So anyway, this would go through a wizard and would set you up. We're going to cancel out of this because the last piece of software we're probably going to install, skip integration today, because this is going to be the majority of people, is LibreOffice. It also goes under the name of OpenOffice. These are different. Let's explain it this way. There's a centralized repository of all the code. Philosophical differences said for one group, the main group that was up by, I believe it was Apache, took it in one direction. And the other group, which is Libre, said, we want to make it as big as we can and we want to give them as much of Microsoft compatibility and usage as we can. So we're going to go this way and we're going to keep building it this way. It's not one better than the other. It's just what are your needs? Where most people are coming off of Microsoft products, it'd be a good idea to have something that has most of the features of a Microsoft product. Download now. Wait a minute. Evolution is an open source email program. And I was thinking, wait, OpenOffice just bought them. No, that's just, they're just using the word evolution because this is a new version. Even for me, this is a new version. There again, we're going to install Windows 64. You can pick whatever you want. There again, you can do the different types of Linux, Debian, Red Hat type based, Mac OS, older versions or older hardware, I should say, that's running older versions of Windows. There are some Windows 10 derivatives that are 32-bit. But the majority of people are using a 64-bit version of Windows. So we're going to download it. Now, if you watch, we're going to tell it to just put it in downloads. Sometimes this is slow, depending on which of their servers, excuse me, depending on which of their servers you're getting, that could be relatively slow. If you want to help, that's a separate download. It's only 2 megs. I don't understand why they just don't include it. But in well, I do understand it. The reason that they don't include this because they'd have to have a 2 point whatever meg file for every language. So that would, in a sense, probably add 100 some odd megs too. That's just a guess. Anyway, so we're going to go with the install first. We're just going to do a typical install. And let it do its thing. We don't have to watch it. For most of you, or should I say many of you, this is all you need. If you're into photo editing, there's some packages I can recommend. In fact, we're going to make another video of it. If you're into working with audio, there's packages I can recommend. If you're into wanting to do some of the stuff that YouTubers do, like benchmarking or watching and knowing how the temperature or how fast each core of your CPU is going off, there's software for that. But first, this is what you install. It gives you a fast way of searching for files anywhere on the computer. We also have a way of compressing and decompressing and protecting those, which is a good thing to do. If you're saving stuff up on like Dropbox or Box or any of those, they'll tell you that your stuff's protected. But how about we add a layer of protection? How about when we're about to put something up there that's personal that we want to keep private? How about we take and we zip it up, encrypt it with a password, and then send that encrypted file to Box. That way, their encryption on top of our encryption makes that kind of protected. Now, there's other ways of doing it. You can use a network attached storage or a NAS. We'll talk about those later. There's different ways of protecting your files. If you're like me and you end up with a whole bunch of files, I have 56,000 pictures that were taken on our different trips and stuff over the last 2 decades. Not to mention stuff we've done around the house. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Come back over here. Now I'm going to look at a virtual machine because I'm looking at double things, and that's sometimes I get a little confused on which thing I'm actually paying attention to. Right here's our little group of things that we've installed. Well, 4 of them. We did a browser Brave, Chrome, Safari, Opera, Firefox. I use them all. I have to. I develop websites. There's things I have to test. Each one of them has a different idiosyncratic behavior. We installed everything so that we could look and easily index and find anything that's on our computers. We installed 7-zip, but that file's not here. That allows us to compress or decompress almost anything that you're going to get off the web that has a compression format. We did Mozilla Thunderbird, which will allow you to connect and use even Gmail if you've got it, or Live or whatever. That Thunderbird will allow you to connect and use those. And we've installed LibreOffice, which we haven't showed you yet. So let's real quick just pop up the LibreOffice. And there's probably one more piece of software that we can do, LibreOffice. If you just do the straight LibreOffice, it'll come up with basically here's all the ways you can run me. You can do spreadsheets, or you can draw, or you can do documents, or image presentations. You just collect the idea on the item that you're wanting to do. Most people aren't going to do databases. And if you are, I would strongly suggest you do it another way than this. Use your IDE. Another thing, programmers, IDEs. If you need to do math formulas, etc., it's right here. You just click the thing you want to do. They also have those actually in the start menu, so you can just go straight to it. So we're going to say, okay, get out of this. And you would start using like your normal. One more piece of software I'll suggest, and that's going to be it for this video. Software called Notepad++. 2 plus signs. And if I spelled it correctly, either way, it still found it. If you notice, we're using DuckDuckGo, and it's boom, right there. You don't have to wait. Familiar formats, and they're not tracking you. The reason I like Notepad++ better than Windows stuff for a few reasons. Security-wise, Notepad, Microsoft's Notepad, it's in Windows, has traditionally been used as a loader for Trojans, viruses. Basically, they take over the exe, and every time your computer runs, it would automatically run, and then it would just keep going out and finding a new Trojan ad and new Trojan ad. So after a while, you've got 80, 90, 100,000 viruses on your computer. And as you pull one off, this thing is running and pulling more in. So it's fun tug of war to get rid of. Not impossible if you know how, which we may get into some of that stuff. But this Notepad++ also allows you not just to do text files, it also allows you to do programming languages, Python. It's a quick editor that you can use for almost anything text. And so that's one reason I recommend it. If you don't think you're going to need it, don't bother installing it. I don't know what all that is. So anyway, defaults at 32-bit. We don't want the 32-bit. So I scroll down, I find the 64-bit version. If you notice, they actually have a privacy signature on those to make sure, so you can double check it, make sure it hasn't been tampered with. Another tiny install, graded licenses, just default everything and let it go. And you run, and when you run it, if you notice it said load languages, we didn't include any, so that's fine. And it's just a text editor. I hit Control N, I can start a new file, and here's the other thing, I can close it. He closed it, it's all gone. No, Notepad doesn't work that way. It'll cache it. So try to do that Notepad, regular Notepad, and you're gonna lose everything. So these are pretty much the softwares we've installed. I'm just going to yank them out here so we can see them. Web browser, 2 utilities, or actually I could say 3 utilities, because Notepad's kind of a utility, an email program, and a way of doing Office documents. It'll open, write, and save Microsoft formats. So there you go, 6 pieces of software. For most of you, that's all you're going to need to use your computer. And you can start enjoying and having fun, and know that with this software, the software itself is not doing anything to record anything that you're doing with it. Other than the fact that you save it on your computer, then well, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a third party or Microsoft or somebody else watching and keep capturing your key presses, I should say, or pulling off your images from a video or microphones. None of it's there. If you have any other ideas or suggestions for softwares, put them in the comments below. If you have something that's better than these, please let me know, especially email. If you know of free software, I know there's paid, and that's a whole nother video. We could compare Pegasus and some of the other. Most people, when they buy their computer, they don't want to spend any more money, and so I'm trying to stay with open source stuff as I can. But if you know better software, different software, just put it in the comments below. Also, subscribe, like the video, visit our Patreon, support our channel, because without you, this is not possible. I thank each and every one of you for supporting us. We'll see you in the next video.